Hello once again, my name is Mr. Nicholas Mutinda from Nairobi branch. We are continuing where we left. We are on chapter 3 about functions of management, where we are discussing on planning. In the first video of this chapter, we discussed about definition of planning and forecasting, elements of planning and planning process, types of plans and importance of planning. In this video, we are going to finish about planning, and we are going to discuss 3 subtopics. We're going to discuss steps in the planning process and barriers or limitations to planning, and end with decision making and problem solving process. I hope you will enjoy, and I want to remind you that kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. You just need to click there below, subscribe, so that you may be able to receive the other videos. Welcome to class. So we will go to 3.5 steps in the planning process. 3.5 steps in planning process. Steps in planning process. So when we talk about planning, what are the steps of planning? What are the steps of planning? Probably you need to, let's say you are planning for your organization in the next 5 years, but you are planning the organization for the next 1 year, or you are planning your week, or you are planning your day. What are those steps that you go through in order to ensure that you do a good plan? Now, in planning, let's take for instance, you are running a restaurant and you want to plan for the next 2 to 3 years. What will be the steps that you will undergo in order to ensure that you come up with an effective plan for the restaurant? Number 1, probably you want to open a new branch. Probably you want to increase your market share. One of the things, one of the steps of planning will be to identify a business opportunity. You scan the environment, and since you have scanned the environment, you have seen there is no match. Your rivals are not doing as well. The market is increasing. So you can comfortably open 3 or 4 new branches within the town. You can open, or you have scanned the environment, you have seen that in Mombasa, we don't have so much hotels that provide efficient or good services to customers. So what do? You are looking at, there is a business opportunity. You are identifying a business opportunity. You are looking at, if you are talking about, probably you are running a bank and you want to open branches all over the Africa. It is because that you have identified that there are no banks that which offer efficient services or offer products like yours. So in the first step of planning is what we call identifying business opportunity. Identifying business opportunity, or recognizing need for action, or recognizing need for action. Step 1, identifying business opportunity. If you are talking about a restaurant, you find that along Moi Avenue, there is no restaurant. Along Tomboya, the restaurants that are there are not providing efficient services. So there is need for a restaurant. There is need for you to open a new branch there. You identify the business opportunity. You identify, you recognize need for action. You have been working as an organization, and in your working you have scanned the internal environment and you have scanned the external environment, and you have realized that the things, your business operations have been costing much, so you can be able to digitize the operations. So you identify need for digitizing your operation. That is the first step. Identify the business opportunity. Recognize the need for action after having scanned the environment, both internal and external. You identify the business opportunity, you identify the need for action. Probably you have realized that your workforce are not the best. Probably you need to upgrade to people who have skills, to people who have experience. So you have identified the need for action. That is the first step. Recognizing need for action, identifying business opportunity after you have scanned the internal and external market. Now, you have identified the business opportunity, or you have recognized the need for action. What is step 2? Setting objectives. So you have realized that there is need to minimize our costs. There is need to minimize our costs. There is need to expand our businesses. There is need to open in new branches. So you are setting up objectives. What do we do in order to accomplish that need? What do we do in order to accomplish that, to meet that business opportunity, to take the opportunity for that business opening? What do we do? Setting objectives for the organization. Probably you have realized you have not been revising very well. So you now need to revise very well. You have realized your education is not the best. So there is need for action. That is step 1, there is need for action. Now, in step 2 is you set objectives. I need to upgrade my skills. I need to further my education. I need to open a new branch along Moi Avenue. I need to digitize our operations. I need to employ qualified people. Setting up objectives. This is the second and most important step of the planning process. Here we establish the objectives for the whole organization and also individual departments. So you have realized there is need for there is market, and now we are going to establish 2 branches, one along Tomboya Street and another one along Moi Avenue. We are going to establish a new branch in Machakos because we have realized there are no branches in Machakos. There are no insurance companies in Machakos. So we are going to open a new branch. We are going to open our branch at Machakos. We have realized that there is no bank in Mandera. So we are going to open a branch there. Setting objectives. Now, after you have set the objectives, step number 3 is what we call developing premises. Developing premises. When you're talking about premises, what are the assumptions that you're going to meet? Remember, you are planning for the future. You are planning for the future. You are predicting for the future. Planning is done for the future. So, probably you have identified a business opportunity in Mandera such that since Mandera you have identified there is no bank institution, there is no bank in Mandera, so you want to open a new branch there. Now, what are the promises? What are the assumptions you are going to make? You are going to make assumptions that there will be nobody who will have realized that business opportunity by the time we open, because you are predicting the future. So you must have come with predictions. Remember, you are planning. What are the risks involved? 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 Because definitely you are planning for the future. There are risks, both internal and external, and it is this risk that we are calling them the premises. It is these assumptions that we are calling the premises. Because definitely you might be wanting to upgrade your skills, your employees. Probably you employ employees who are ICT experts, but you find now in the market, in the supply market, they are not available. What do you do? What do you do? You want to open a new branch in Moi Avenue, but what are the costs along Moi Avenue? What are the costs, the rental costs? What are those other assumptions are you going to make? What are the risks are you likely to encounter in opening this branch? You are talking about probably expanding your business across the borders. You want to open a new branch in Mandera. No, not in Mandera, in Uganda. You want to open a new branch in Rwanda. What are the assumptions? Will you be able to get the licenses? How much is the licenses? Will the people accept your products? Those are the assumptions you are making. Now, after you have made that, you have identified a business opportunity, you have set objectives, you have developed the premises. The fourth step is to identify alternatives. Is to identify alternatives. What are the alternative courses of action can I take? What are the alternative courses of action can I take? Can I open a new branch in Moi Avenue? Can I open a new branch at Kenyatta Avenue? You compare. What are the alternatives? If you are talking about opening a branch, a bank in Mandera, do I open it in Mandera town, or do I open it in which town? If you are talking about in Machakos County, we want to establish Machakos County, a branch in Machakos County, where? Do I go to Machakos town, or do I go to Matu town? We are talking about expanding your business operations to the rest of East Africa. Do I open a branch at Rwanda? Do I open a branch at Uganda? Do I open a branch at Tanzania? And what are the possible alternatives? If you are talking about digitizing your operations, will require employees who are skilled in ICT. Do I train the employees that I have, or do I employ fresh graduates who are already trained on ICT? Those are the alternatives you are looking at. Probably you have identified that you need to upgrade your skills. You need to further your education. Do I go do a postgraduate diploma, or do I go do a master's in whatever, probably in project management? alternatives. What are the alternatives available to me? What are the alternatives available to me? Now, step number 5 is analyzing the alternatives. You analyze the alternatives and choose the best. We are planning. We want to increase our market share. We need to increase our market share. So we have looked at, we need to, for us to increase our market share, we have realized that we need to open 2 more branches. 2 more branches. We have set the objective as opening 2 branches. We have looked at the risk, we have looked at the premises, we have looked at the assumptions. We have identified we can only open a branch either along Moi Avenue, either along Kenyatta Avenue, or either along Tom Mboya Street. Now, you need to analyze those specific alternatives and then choose the best. Moi Avenue is a good street. Probably there is no crowding. Kenyatta Avenue, the rent is very high. There are few people you can be able to capture good markets, but the rent are very high. People by 8 p.m. all the offices are closed, and you might not find customers beyond 8 p.m. Look at Kenyatta, look at Tom Mboya Street. There are a lot of people. The town does not sleep. That street does not sleep. We can be able to capture, we can be able to get business up to midnight. Can be able to get business up to 1 a.m. We can actually operate 24 hours. But there is crowding. Those are where the stages of all the stages of the matatus are. There is noisy. People want to spend their money, customers may not come there. Now, based on those analyses, which one is the best place to open a restaurant? That is what we are talking about, analyzing the alternatives and choosing the best. Based on that, which is the best one? Based on that, which is the best one? Do we open now? Depending on the nature of the restaurant we are going to open. Probably we may need to open in Moi Avenue because it's between. We can be able to capture customers, to have customers even by 10 p.m. Yes, it is crowded, but not as crowded as Tom Mboya Street. The rent is considerable. It is very high, but it's considerable. There is no a lot of noise. There is no a lot of crowding. We can attract middle class and high-end markets. Tom Mboya Street. Now we are choosing. Now, after you have chosen the best alternative, develop tasks. What am I needed now to do? What am I needed now to do in order to actualize my project? In order to actualize my plan? What am I needed to do? Develop all tasks. First, I need to go shopping for a considerable place where I can set up my restaurant. We have agreed that we are going to set our restaurant along Moi Avenue. So where is the best place? I need to look for a building. I need to come up with the architecture of how the restaurant will look like. You develop tasks. Who is going to do this? Who is going to do what? Who is going to do what? Who is going to do what? You develop tasks. And then after you have developed the tasks, you need now to determine resources needed to implement the tasks. So how much money do I require? Need to pay rent for at least 6 months. So I need probably 3 million. I need to import to have the kitchen done, the finishing done, the chairs, the tables, the equipment, the kitchen equipment, all that. What is it required? For me to start this restaurant, I would require 10 chefs. I require 20 waiters. I require 5 cashiers and 3 supervisors. Those are the resources that are needed. The resources that are needed. Then, after you have now realized the resources that are needed, you create a timeline. You create a timeline. This is to ensure that your plan does not only delay, but also it works. It is implemented within time. So, a timeline will, for me to get a room, before the end of the first month, I should have identified the place where I will have my restaurant. By the end of the second month, I should have renovated the place and equipped the place with chairs, tables, kitchen equipment, everything. By the end of the second month, I should have also employed, probably advertised. I should have advertised and shortlisted and all the interviews for the employees that I'm going to employ. By mid the third month, I should have finalized the employment process. I should have confirmed the employees who will be working in the organization. By the end of the third month, I should have set everything. The table should be there. The equipment should be there. All the materials to start should be there. The employees should be there. And then on the fourth month is when we are going to start the restaurant. So we are going to pick it in the fourth month. That is when we are going to open doors for us, for the restaurant, for the customers. Now, that is what we call what? Timelines. That is what we are calling what? Timelines. Now, and then after you have done the timelines, what support is needed? What other support do I need? Do the plan need? Probably you identify. Do you need consultants? Do you need others? What is the support needed? Where do I get support? What support is needed? And then lastly, implementation of the plan. Now you have done all the planning. Now you can implement it. And I think now that is the end of the steps. That is the end of the steps of planning. Now, the next thing we are going to talk about is barriers or limitations of planning process. Barriers or limitations of planning process. This is 3.6 barriers or limitations of planning process. So what are the limitations? What are the barriers of planning? What are the barriers of planning? Probably when you are planning for your day, what are those challenges you face when you are planning for your day? Today is on 2020, and Corona is everywhere, and people had planned for 2020. Businesses had planned probably for 3 years. This being the last year, probably other businesses, this being the first year, others, this being the second year. And people had plans. People had plans. But what are the barriers? What are the limitations of those plans? Now, based on that, limitation number one is that we are predicting, and our focus is never 100%. Is never 100% correct. And this is a major, because if somebody had told you that the children will stay home from March to December, nobody will have believed that. If somebody told us that Corona will interrupt our normal businesses, nobody would have believed that. But the businesses had plans. And mark you, some businesses will collapse for good. They will be affected to the extent that they will close and they will not be able to resuscitate. Yet they had glad plans. Now, so one of the limitations is that planning is based on forecast. Planning is based on predicting the future. We cannot predict 100% correct. We cannot predict 100% correct. You will find that you plan to go to be in town. Probably you have been going, taking 40 to 45 minutes to arrive at town. So, on this particular day, you find that there is an accident somewhere and there is a lot of traffic jam. So instead of taking 40 minutes that you usually take, you end up taking 2 hours, and it disrupts your plans for the day. That is number one. Number two, we do not have inadequate information. Rarely will you have adequate information for planning. And remember, this planning, this information is one of the basics that we make in order to make decisions, in order to make our plans. So inadequate information. Inadequate information. Who can tell you how rare? Probably you are planning for Uganda market. Are you able to get correct information? What are the business? What are the people's demands? What are the requirements? How is the demand there? How will people perceive your products? Inadequate information. Because we rarely have it. You can't have enough information for plans. And that's a very key challenge. That is a very key challenge. Key limitation of planning. Now, another thing is inadequate leadership skills. Inadequate leadership skills. Now we are in the context of the organization, whereby you find that the organization is planning for its 5 years term. So the organization of the top management makes plans. The department is required also to make plans based on the strategic plans. Remember, in the last video we discussed about the types of plans, and we said strategic plans, tactical plans, and operational plans. So you find the people who are in charge of planning, probably they don't have leadership skills. They are not able to guide the people to make the right plans. And it becomes a challenge for the organization. It becomes a challenge for the organization. Now, another thing is what we call no systems in place. No systems in place. Now, when you are talking about systems, and you look at the big organizations or the multinationals, they always get data, and then that data is supposed to be analyzed in order to come up with concrete decisions, in order to come up with concrete plans. You look at Safaricom is planning probably to increase its market share. How does it go through? Does it probably reduce the price by 50 cents? Does it reduce its data bundles by 20%? How does it do it? And for it to be effective in doing that, for it to be effective in planning, they always have systems to analyze all the information. They have a system to analyze what are the customer demands, what are the customer complaints, what are the customer behavior trends. Do we have systems in place? Because these are the ones that help us to make good plans for the organization. Failure to which you find your plans have a limitation. You may not be able to make correct plans. You may not be able to predict correctly because you have no systems in place. You have no systems in place. You look at the banking industry, for instance, they are able to see, they are able to know if we reduce our interest rates on loans, probably by 1%, this will be the outcome. This will be the outcome. If we say there will be no withdrawals over the counter, and those who withdraw over the counter will charge them 500 shillings, this will be the outcome. So what do? We are planning in order for us to minimize our costs. It is better for us to establish numerous ATM machines and then reduce on the tellers. If we establish a depositing ATM machine, we can be able to reduce our tellers and hence reduce our labor costs by this much, because they are able to analyze that data, because there are systems in place. But you find that in organization you might find there are no systems, and you find it is a limitation. Another thing, do we have qualified manpower to do planning? In most cases you will find we have a limitation on manpower. And it affects the organization. All right. Another limitation is what we call limited resources and funding. Limited resources and funding. Probably when you don't have resources to do planning, to collect that information, you find it is a limitation, it is a challenge in ensuring that you come up with plans. Another thing is that impractical business strategies. I think that is a very critical one. Impractical business strategies. So if you come up with plans which are based on rumors, which do not hold water, definitely you will be in problems. Impractical. This is, I think, 6. Impractical business strategies. You are coming up with plans, and that is a challenge. You have received strategic plan from the head office. Then you find now when you are talking about developing plans for the department based on that, you find some of the things are ambiguous. They cannot be implemented. The strategy is impractical. It cannot be applied. Yet it is there. And you find that is a challenge. Another one is complex working environment. Planning is based on focus. We have talked about that. Planning is also time consuming. Planning is time consuming. It requires time, especially for those complex plans. For instance, if you are talking about complex organizations, which depending on the nature of the business of the organization, it may require time. You may plan up to the probably you find that you are planned for 3 months, and when you are still doing plans for the 3 months, you find now a quarter of a year has gone. So planning is time consuming. I think that is all about challenges of planning or limitation of planning. So probably even though there are various barriers to planning and overall management aspects of the firm, if the top management of the firm is firm on its ethics, aims, and objectives, owing to where it can assemble and resolve issues, irrespective of the challenges that you find in planning. If the top management is firm on ethics, aims, and objectives of the plans, it will definitely find a way to resolve these challenges. That is what we mean. That is the conclusion. Irrespective of the challenges that you go, irrespective of the limitations that you come across, if the top management is committed to the plans, to running the business professionally, it will always resolve the challenges, limitations, and barriers that accrue to the planners. So, how do you overcome challenges? Setting realistic, achievable goals, communicating the assumptions, encouraging participation of all stakeholders, ensuring there is proper coordination, encourage creativity in planning, reduce the level of internal flexibility, involve everyone, avail resources, start to plan very well, very early. If you are talking about planning for the next year, probably before 2 months before the year ends, start coming up with plans, and you will be able to overcome all those challenges. Now, 3.7 is what we call decision making and problem solving. 3.7, decision making and problem solving. So, what do we mean by decision? What do we mean by decision? What do we mean by decision making? What is a decision? Probably you chose to view this video. That is a decision you made. You chose to register for this course. That is a decision you made. What is a decision? What is decision making? A decision is an act of choice between several alternatives. A decision is an act. It's an act of choice between several alternatives. Decision is an act of choice between several alternatives. A decision represents a course of behavior chosen. A decision represents a course of behavior chosen from a number of possible alternatives. That is according to McFarland. Decision represent a course of behavior chosen from a number of possible alternatives. Will I use a matatu? Will I use a taxi? Will I use my car? Will I use a bus? Will I use a minibus? Will I go on foot? Will I use a motorcycle? I want to arrive at town within a very short period, probably within 30 minutes. I have an appointment. How am I going to arrive at town? There are several alternatives. I can use a taxi. I can use my car. I can use a bus. I can use a motorcycle. Probably there is a traffic jam. You are making a decision. You are choosing amongst several alternatives. Decision making. Now, characteristics of decision. Characteristics of decision making. Number one, it is an intellectual process. It is an intellectual process. It involves thinking through. It involves reasoning. You don't wake up and then make decisions. And probably if you have made decisions whereby you never thought or you never thought through, you will find yourselves in problems because probably most likely you make the wrong decision. So decision is an intellectual process where you reason and you think through. If I do this, if I use a matatu, what are the chances? What is the outcome? Because you are choosing between a matatu, a taxi, my car, a motorcycle. You think through. If I go for further education, you want to go for further education, and you are choosing between going and doing a postgraduate diploma or a master's degree in whatever field you are specializing in, you think through. You think through. Because it's an intellectual process. Intellectual process. Another characteristics of decision making, it is a choice between several alternatives. That's a characteristic. It is a choice between several alternatives. Another very crucial characteristic of decision making, it is connected to the environment. It is connected to the environment. And when you are talking about connected to the environment, we simply mean that some decisions may be made in this particular kind of environment, and you find that tomorrow, since the environment has changed, you will need to make probably another decision another kind of decision. For instance, if you are talking about using a motorcycle, or using a car, or using a bus. Now, the environment you are talking about is, do we have traffic jam? Because if you have traffic jam, it will be better for you to use a motorcycle. That decision is based on that environment. Probably when going at home, probably you had an appointment and you chose to use a motorcycle in the morning going for the appointment. And after 3 hours, you are through with your appointment. Now you are going home. Probably the environment has changed. There is no traffic jam. So you can use your taxi. You can use public transport. The decision has changed. Depending on what? On the environment. Now, we are undergoing corona pandemic. The decisions that we made when there was no corona is different from what we are making now when there is corona. Before corona, organizations were investing, were expanding. But now, they are scaling down their operations. People are working at home, from home. People are working from home. Because it depends on the environment. Another thing about another characteristics is that it involves time dimension and a time lag. Involves time dimension and time lag. What do we say? There are some decisions that you are required to make within a very short period of time. And if you don't make them at the correct time, you find the organization is losing dearly. Some decisions, if not made, they cost the organization. They cost the organization. That is what we are calling time dimensions. There are some decisions you find that you are required to consult over and over again. You need to think through. They require probably thinking through for 5 days or even a month. Others, they require now and then. Make the decision right now. Time dimensions. When you are talking about time lag, what do we mean by time lag? Some decisions you will make today, but the consequences will be felt probably 5 years to come. Some decisions you will make today, but the consequences will be felt tomorrow. That is a time lag. What is the time lag of your decision? Is it immediately? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 months? Is it 10 years to come? Probably, organizations that chose to expand and to digitize their operations, probably they have no problems right now because of corona. Those who are expanding, they will reap the benefits probably after 5 years, after 2 years. Those people went to school and decided will not learn. And probably, those are decisions they made probably in primary school, in secondary school. But now, the reality is thinking now. 5 years time, in 5 years period, after they are made. Some people make decisions that they will not invest. So, because they are very young and they are enjoying life, only for them, the consequences will be felt after they have retired in their old age. Now, that is taking 30 years because they have been working for 30 years. And since there was a regular source of income, they had no problem. They were enjoying life. But now after they have retired, that is when the time now they think the consequences are coming. Right. Decision always has a purpose. There is always a purpose. There is always a purpose. Now, what are the decision-making processes? What are the decision-making processes? How do you make decisions yourself? How do an organization? You see, when you are talking about making decisions, it doesn't matter whether it is an individual, a group of people, an organization, a manager, an employee. It's all the same. So what are the decision-making process? What are the steps of making decisions? What are the steps of making decisions? Number one is setting objectives. Decision-making process. Number one is setting objectives. What do I require? What do I require? I require to be in town in 30 minutes. I require to be in town in 30 minutes. That is the objective. So, number two is defining the problem. Defining the problem. What is the problem? How do I get to town? How do I get to town? Scan the environment, analyze the problem. It's a traffic jam. I need to expand my business. That is the objective. Need to open a new branch. That is the objective. Where do I open it? That is the problem. What are the challenges? You are analyzing the problem. What are the challenges? We need to expand, to open a new branch in Rwanda. That is the objective. We need to open a new branch in Rwanda. We need to expand to Rwanda. Do we buy an existing bank there? Or do we go and start afresh? That is the problem we are talking about. Then you analyze. What are the alternatives? What are the alternatives available? What are the alternatives available? I need to further my education. That is the objective. Where do I further it? Where do I further it? Is it Moi University? Is it Kenyatta University? Is it University of Nairobi? Is it Kenya Institute of Management? Where do I further that education? What skills do I need? What are the possible alternatives now? Do I do a master's or do I do a postgraduate diploma? Do I open a new restaurant in Moi Avenue, or do I open a new restaurant at Kenyatta Avenue, or do I open a restaurant at Somboya Street? What are the alternatives available to me? The other one, selecting the best alternative. By doing a postgraduate diploma or by doing a master's degree, how much do I benefit? What are the costs involved? how much will it take for me to do a diploma? And how much will it take me to do a master's degree? Select the best alternative. Select the best alternative. And after you have selected, the next one is implement the decision. Implement the decision. Implement the decision. And then lastly, follow up. Follow up the decision to see whether you are achieving what you required. You are follow up to ensure that you are achieving what you required. And that is all about decision making. That is all about planning. So we have finished planning. Remember, we did the first video where we looked at the first 4 subtopics. The first 4 subtopics. Here we have talked about the last 3 subtopics. So I think that is all about planning. If you have not watched the first video, kindly look for it. It is called Planning 1. This is Planning 2, and you'll be able to understand about planning. Bye. Thank you for watching. And if you have not subscribed, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. You'll be able to get more videos. Bye, 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 bye.